A simple mistake changed her life. But courage changed her destiny. In her new role, Lena uncovered a betrayal no one saw coming, one that was quietly designed to ruin her. The man she trusted most stood beside her, but the enemy was closer than she ever imagined. And when the truth finally came out, the decision that followed shocked everyone. Stay tuned, because you are about to watch a beautiful story and find out what happened next. Hello family, welcome to Tales by King. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Lena sat at her new desk and stared at the nameplate for a moment. Operations Coordinator, Lena Harper. It still felt strange. Just a week ago, she had been an assistant who worked quietly behind the scenes. Now, she was sitting in a position many people had chased for years. She took a slow breath and reminded herself to stay calm. It's still work, she thought. Just more responsibility. The office felt different now. People greeted her politely, but their eyes lingered longer than before. Some smiled with genuine happiness. Others smiled quickly and turned away. Lena noticed the difference. She always did. Alexander passed by her desk that morning and stopped. "Good morning," he said. "Good morning, sir," Lena replied. He nodded slightly. "If you need anything, come straight to me." Lena nodded. "Thank you." When he walked away, a few heads turned in her direction. Lena pretended not to notice and opened her laptop. But inside, her heart was beating fast. She knew something important now. People were watching her. Lena spent her days reviewing reports, approving schedules, and checking payments. She took her time. She didn't rush. She checked everything twice. On the third day, something felt off. She was reviewing monthly expense reports when she noticed a small change in one invoice. The amount was only slightly different. Most people would have ignored it, but Lena didn't. She frowned and opened the previous month's file. The numbers were not the same. She leaned closer to the screen. "That's strange," she whispered. She checked another invoice from the same department. Another small change. Then another. Her chest tightened. The changes were tiny, too tiny to raise alarms. But they followed a pattern. Lena closed her eyes for a second. Alexander was right, she thought. Someone is hiding in the details. She saved the files quietly and continued working as if nothing was wrong. But from that moment, Lena stopped being just careful. She became alert. Over the next few days, Lena paid attention to people. Who came early, who stayed late, who asked too many questions, who avoided eye contact. She noticed one thing clearly. Whenever she walked into the finance department, conversations stopped. Someone always changed their screen quickly. Someone always cleared their throat. It made her uncomfortable. One afternoon, she overheard two co-workers whispering. "Alexander trusts her too much," one of them said. "Yes," the other replied quietly. "Too much." Lena kept walking as if she heard nothing, but her heart sank. So that's it, she thought. They think I don't deserve this. That night, she stayed late. The office was almost empty. The lights were dim. The air was quiet. Lena opened old records, files from months before her promotion. And that was when she saw it. The same type of changes. The same pattern. But this time, the approval trail ended somewhere else. Not her desk. Not Alexander's. Someone else had touched those files after she submitted them. Lena's fingers trembled slightly. She followed the trail carefully. File by file. Month by month. Until one name appeared again and again. Victor Hale. Victor Hale was not just anyone. He was the senior finance manager. Experienced. Respected. Friendly. A man who joked during meetings and shook hands confidently. Alexander trusted him. Everyone did. Lena leaned back in her chair slowly. Her heart started pounding. "No," she whispered. She wanted to believe she was wrong. She checked again. And again. Every altered record passed through Victor's access. And then she noticed something worse. Some of the changes were made after Lena submitted her work. That meant only one thing. Someone was trying to make it look like she made the mistake. Lena's throat went dry. "He's setting me up," she realized. Her mind raced. Is this why Alexander said the message saved me? She suddenly understood. If the investigation had continued quietly without her promotion, the blame could have landed on her. She would have been destroyed. Lena closed her laptop slowly and rested her hands on the desk. Fear crawled up her spine, but this time it did not control her. Instead, something else rose. Determination. She whispered softly to herself. "I won't panic. I won't run. I will find the truth. She gathered the evidence carefully, saved copies, and locked them with passwords only she and Alexander could access. Before leaving the office, she looked around one last time. The building was quiet, but Lena knew now. She was not alone. Someone inside Bright Core Solutions was watching her closely. And now, she was watching back. The next morning, Lena walked into the office with a calm face. But inside, her heart was not calm at all. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the name again. Victor Hale. She kept thinking about how normal he looked. How confident he sounded in meetings. How friendly he seemed to everyone. How can someone smile like that and still do this? She wondered. Lena did not rush into action. She did not confront anyone. She remembered Alexander's words. Be careful. Watch. Report to me. So she stayed quiet. She did her work, and she continued to collect proof. For 2 days, Lena acted like nothing had changed. She attended meetings as normal. She answered emails politely. She even smiled at Victor when he greeted her in the hallway. Good morning, Lena, Victor said one afternoon, carrying a folder. Good afternoon, sir, Lena replied with a small smile. Victor's eyes rested on her for a second longer than usual. Then he nodded and walked away. Lena's stomach turned. That look felt like a warning. That same evening, Lena prepared a set of payment documents. Nothing huge, nothing loud. Just enough to test a pattern. She recorded the original numbers, saved copies, and sent them through the normal process. Then she waited. The next day, she checked the system quietly. Her heart sank. The numbers had been adjusted again. Not by a lot. Just enough to look like a simple correction. But Lena knew it wasn't. She pulled up the access log and stared at the screen. The change came from the same account. Victor Hale. Lena's hands tightened around her mouse. She took a slow breath. Now I'm sure, she thought. She immediately saved the proof, took screenshots, and placed everything in a private folder. Then she wrote a short, clear report. No long story. No emotions. Just facts. Because facts were dangerous in the hands of a thief. At exactly 6:10 p.m., Lena knocked on Alexander's office door. Come in, he said. She stepped inside. Alexander was still in his suit, sleeves rolled up, his tie loosened slightly. He looked tired but focused. He looked at Lena's face and sat up straight. Something happened, he said quietly. Lena nodded. Yes, sir. She walked forward and placed a slim folder on his desk. It was not the same folder from before. This one was smaller, but heavier in meaning. Alexander opened it slowly. Lena watched his face as he read. At first, his expression stayed neutral. Then his eyes narrowed. Then his jaw tightened. Alexander flipped to the next page. Then the next. The silence in the room became thick. Lena's heartbeat was loud in her ears. Finally, Alexander looked up. Victor? He asked, like his mouth didn't want to say the name. Lena swallowed. Yes, she said softly. It's him. Alexander stared at her for a long moment. Then he stood up and walked toward the window, just like he did the first time he told her the truth. For a few seconds, he didn't speak. When he finally did, his voice was low. I trusted him, he said. He has been with this company since the early days. Lena didn't interrupt. Alexander turned around, eyes colder now, but still controlled. How long has this been going on? He asked. Lena opened her notebook. At least 7 months, she answered. Maybe longer. The pattern is clear. He moves money in small amounts and hides it inside routine expenses. Alexander's eyes hardened. And the part about you? He asked. Lena's throat tightened. Yes, she admitted. Some records were changed after I submitted them, sir. If this continued, it could easily look like I made the changes. Alexander stared at her, anger rising behind his calm. He was trying to set you up, he said slowly. Lena nodded. Alexander let out a slow breath, like someone holding back a storm. Okay, he said. We will handle this properly. Lena looked at him. How? She asked quietly. Alexander returned to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a small device. An internal audit tool, he explained. It tracks changes and collects system records. I didn't want to use it until I was sure. He looked at Lena. Now we are sure. Alexander sat down and spoke clearly. We will not confront him alone, he said. We will not accuse him without the full trail. Lena listened carefully. We will set a controlled trap, Alexander continued. A transaction that looks normal, but is tagged. Lena's eyes widened slightly. A tagged transaction? she asked. Yes, Alexander replied. If he touches it, the system will record everything. Time, device, account, location. Lena nodded slowly. Alexander leaned forward. But Lena, he said, you must be careful. Lena held his gaze. Victor is smart, Alexander continued. If he senses danger, he can destroy evidence and run. Lena's voice was steady. I understand. Alexander stared at her, then nodded. Good, he said. Tomorrow we do it. The next morning, Lena prepared the tagged documents with Alexander's guidance. They looked ordinary. Simple. Clean. But they were not ordinary. They were bait. Lena sent them through the normal process and returned to her desk like nothing was happening. She watched from the corner of her eyes all day. Victor walked around calmly, greeting people, laughing lightly with two co-workers near the printer. No one would guess he was a thief. At 3:40 p.m., Victor passed Lena's desk and paused. Settling into your new role? He asked. His voice was friendly, but his smile didn't reach his eyes. Lena forced a polite smile. Yes, sir. I'm learning. Victor nodded slowly. You're doing well, he said. Just make sure you don't stress yourself. Big roles come with big pressure. Lena's fingers clenched under the desk. She heard the hidden message. Be careful. Don't look too deep. She nodded calmly. Thank you, she replied. Victor walked away. Lena waited. At 5:18 p.m., Alexander sent her a short message. He touched it. Lena's heart jumped. A few minutes later, the system alert came in. Victor Hale accessed the tagged transaction. Victor Hale edited the figures. Victor Hale approved the update. Everything was recorded. Everything. Lena stared at the screen, her breath shaky. It was no longer suspicion. It was truth. And now, the company's comm surface was about to crack open, because the man everyone trusted was finally about to be exposed. The next morning, the office looked the same. People walked in with coffee. Computers turned on. Meetings were scheduled. But for Lena, everything felt different, because she knew the truth now, and she knew what was coming. Lena arrived early and went straight to Alexander's office. He was already there, standing by his desk, his suit neat, his face calm, but his eyes were sharp. He nodded once when she entered. It's all recorded? He asked. Yes, Lena replied. Every step. Time, account, the exact changes. Alexander took a slow breath and opened a folder on his desk. Inside were printed logs, screenshots, and audit records. He looked at Lena. You did well, he said quietly. Lena nodded, but her stomach was tight. Sir, she asked softly, what happens next? Alexander's voice was firm. Now we face him. With witnesses. With facts. No drama. No shouting. Lena swallowed. And if he tries to lie? She asked. Alexander's eyes darkened. Then he lies in front of proof, he replied. At 10 a.m., Alexander scheduled an urgent meeting. Not a general meeting. A private one. The attendees were few. Alexander Brooks. Lena Harper. Victor Hale. Ms. Doreen Pike, head of HR. Mr. Jamal Trent, company legal advisor. Lena sat quietly beside Alexander in the conference room, her hands clasped tightly. She could feel her pulse in her fingertips. The door opened. Victor walked in confidently, as if he was attending a normal finance meeting. Good morning, he said with a light smile. What's this about? Alexander did not smile. Sit down, Victor, he said. Victor's smile faded slightly, but he still looked relaxed. He sat. HR and legal sat too. The air became heavy. Alexander placed a folder on the table. Victor, he said, I'm going to ask you one question first, and I want a direct answer. Victor raised his brows. Okay, he said. Alexander leaned forward slightly. Have you been altering company invoices and moving money into unauthorized channels? Silence. Victor blinked like he didn't hear correctly. Then he chuckled once, short and fake. That's a serious accusation, Victor said. No, of course not. Lena's stomach tightened, but she kept her face calm. Alexander nodded slowly. Good, he said. So you're saying you did not? Victor straightened. Yes, he said confidently. I did not. Alexander slid the folder across the table. Then explain this, he said. Victor glanced down and opened it. For the first 2 seconds, his face stayed normal. Then his eyes froze. His fingers paused on the pages like they suddenly became too heavy. The room was silent as he turned the first page. Then the second. Then the third. Each page showed the same story. access logs, edited amounts, timestamps, confirmed approvals, his account name at the top. Victor's throat moved like he was swallowing something sharp. This, he began, but his voice broke slightly. This doesn't. Alexander cut him off calmly. It does, he said. And we have the system recording from the tagged transaction yesterday. It shows you touched it, edited it, and approved it. Victor's face became pale. He closed the folder slowly, like he was trying to make it disappear. Then he laughed again. A louder laugh. But this one sounded desperate. This is ridiculous, he said quickly. My account could have been used by someone else. Anyone can. Jamal, the legal advisor, spoke calmly. The log shows the device used, the internal IP address, and the time. It matches your workstation, Jamal said. It also shows your security key was used. That cannot happen by accident. Victor's mouth opened slightly. No words came out. Lena watched him closely. His eyes moved around the room like a trapped man looking for a door. Alexander spoke again, slower this time. Victor, he said, I gave you chances. I noticed issues before and asked questions. You always had answers. He paused. But you didn't stop, Alexander continued. You only became smarter. Victor's jaw tightened. Then Alexander added the final blow. And you tried to frame Lena. Victor's head snapped up. I did not, he started. Lena finally spoke, her voice clear but gentle. Sir, she said, looking at Victor, the edits were made after my submissions. The system shows it. If the company questioned those changes later, the blame would fall on me. Victor stared at her. His eyes narrowed like he wanted to blame her for being smart enough to notice. You, he whispered. Lena held his gaze. I only did my job, she said calmly. Victor's breathing became heavier. His confidence was gone now. Ms. Doreen from HR leaned forward. Victor, she said, this is your chance to tell the truth. If you cooperate, it will be noted. If you continue lying, the consequences will be worse. Victor's lips trembled. He looked at Alexander, then at Lena, then at the folder again. Finally, he lowered his head. His shoulders dropped slowly, like a man who could no longer carry his own lies. He began. His voice cracked. He cleared his throat, but it didn't help. I did it, Victor whispered. The room felt like it stopped breathing. Alexander's face did not change, but the pain in his eyes showed. How much? Alexander asked quietly. Victor swallowed hard. A little at first, he said. Just small amounts. I thought I could replace it before anyone noticed. Jamal spoke. And the total over the months. Victor's voice dropped. Enough to ruin me, he whispered. Enough to ruin the company if it went public. Lena felt chills. Victor rubbed his face like he was trying to wake up from a nightmare. I didn't want to become this person, he said, his voice shaking. I swear. Alexander stood slowly. His chair scraped the floor lightly. Then why? Alexander asked. Victor's eyes filled with tears he didn't want. My life collapsed, he said. My mother's hospital bills, my brother's debts, loan sharks. He choked on his words. They were threatening me, he whispered. They said they would hurt my family. I was scared. Lena's heart twisted. Victor continued, his voice broken now. I tried the bank. I tried selling things. Nothing was enough. Then I looked at the company accounts and thought, just a little. Just once. He shook his head in shame. But once became twice, he whispered. Then it became every month. Alexander's voice turned colder. And Lena, he asked. Why try to destroy her? Victor looked up, eyes wet. Because when she got promoted, Victor said, I knew she would see things. She's too careful, too quiet, too sharp. Lena's breath caught. Victor's voice became bitter for a second. And you trusted her, he said to Alexander. You started putting your eyes on her. He swallowed. So I panicked, he admitted. I thought if she fell, the focus would leave me. The room was silent. Victor suddenly stood up and dropped to his knees. I'm sorry, he cried, his voice loud now. I'm sorry, Alexander. I'm sorry, Lena. Please, please. His shoulders shook. I don't want to go to prison, he begged. I don't want my family to suffer. I know I deserve punishment, but please. Lena sat frozen. Alexander stared at Victor like he was looking at a stranger. Because the man kneeling on the floor was not the confident finance manager anymore. He was just a broken man whose choices had finally caught him. Alexander's fists clenched. His voice was low, controlled, and heavy with pain. Victor, he said, you didn't just steal money. He paused. You stole trust. Victor sobbed harder. And in that moment, Lena understood something terrifying. This was not over. Not yet. Because the next decision Alexander would make would change all of their lives. The conference room stayed silent after Alexander's words. You stole trust. Victor remained on his knees, shaking. His forehead almost touched the floor. His sobbing filled the room like a broken alarm that would not stop. Lena's chest felt tight. She didn't pity what Victor did, because what he did was cruel and dangerous. But she could also see something real in him now. Fear. Shame. Regret. Alexander stood still, his hands at his sides, shoulders stiff. He looked like a man fighting a storm inside his own heart. For a moment, Lena wondered if Alexander would shout. But he didn't. Instead, Alexander spoke with a quiet voice that carried power. Stand up, he said. Victor looked up with red eyes. Please, he whispered again. Alexander pointed toward the chair. Stand up and sit, he repeated. Victor slowly rose, shaking from head to toe, and sat down like his bones were weak. Alexander looked at HR and legal. Doreen, he said, what is the normal process? Doreen, the HR head, cleared her throat. Normally, Victor would be suspended immediately, access revoked, and an internal report made, she said. Then the company decides whether to involve law enforcement. Victor's breathing became loud. He looked at Jamal, the legal advisor, like he was looking at a judge. Jamal spoke calmly. The evidence is strong, he said. If the company presses charges, he could face serious consequences. Victor's lips trembled. He turned to Alexander. Alexander, please, he whispered, voice cracking. I know I ruined everything. I know I'm wrong. But my mother is sick. My family. Alexander lifted one hand. Stop, he said. Victor froze. Alexander's eyes stayed hard, but his voice became even calmer. You should have come to me, he said. You worked beside me for years. You knew I respected you. Victor lowered his head. I was ashamed, he whispered. I thought you would look at me differently. Alexander's jaw tightened. I look at you differently now anyway, he said. Because you chose betrayal instead of truth. Victor swallowed. He didn't argue. He couldn't. Alexander turned slightly and looked at Lena. Lena stiffened. She didn't know why he was looking at her. She feared he might ask her to decide. Lena's eyes met his. Alexander's expression softened just a little. Lena, he said quietly, you were the one he tried to destroy. Lena's heart beat faster. If I press charges, Alexander continued, justice will be served. But if I choose another path, it will affect the company and the people involved. Lena's throat went dry. She understood. This was bigger than anger, bigger than revenge. It was about what kind of leader Alexander wanted to be, and what kind of person Lena wanted to remain. Lena took a slow breath and spoke softly, but clearly. Sir, he should not keep his job, she said, and he should pay back everything. Victor's head dropped. Lena continued. But I don't want my heart to become hard, she said, voice shaking. He did wrong, but he's also human. Victor looked up slowly, surprised. Lena looked at Alexander. I think he should face consequences, she said. But if the money can be recovered and the company can be protected, maybe there is room for mercy too. The room fell quiet. Alexander stared at Lena as if he was hearing something rare. Not weakness, not softness, but strength. Because it is easy to forgive when you are not the one harmed. It is harder when you are the target. Alexander turned back to Victor. Victor, he said, you will resign today. Victor's whole body jolted. Yes, yes, he said quickly. I will. You will sign an agreement, Alexander continued, to repay every penny. Your assets will be reviewed. Payments will be scheduled. Victor nodded repeatedly, tears falling. And you will attend counseling, Alexander added. Not because I feel sorry for you, but because I don't want you doing this again to another person. Victor sobbed again. Thank you, he whispered. Thank you. I don't deserve this. Alexander's voice was sharp. No, he said. You don't. Victor flinched. But, Alexander continued, I'm choosing this path because the company's reputation matters, and because someone here reminded me that mercy can still exist. He glanced at Lena again. Victor turned to Lena and cried openly. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry I tried to ruin you. You didn't deserve that. Lena's eyes filled, but she didn't cry from sadness. She cried from release, because the fear that had haunted her for weeks was finally over. Later that evening, after Victor was escorted out and the documents were signed, Lena walked out of the building slowly. The sky was dark. The air was cool. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she could breathe freely. She stood near the entrance, holding her bag close. She didn't notice Alexander following until he stood beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Lena nodded slowly. "I think so," she replied. "I'm just tired." Alexander sighed. "I'm tired too," he admitted. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Alexander said quietly, "What you did today, it wasn't normal." Lena frowned slightly. "I just spoke from my heart," she said. Alexander turned to face her. "No," he said. "You stood in front of someone who tried to destroy you, and you still chose not to hate." Lena looked down. Alexander continued, voice steady but gentle. "When I first met you, you were always scared of mistakes," he said. "But today you were fearless." Lena's lips trembled slightly. "I was scared," she admitted. "But I didn't want fear to control me anymore." Alexander's eyes softened. "I'm glad," he said. Then he paused, and Lena felt the air change. Alexander took a small step closer. Not too close, but close enough for Lena to feel his presence clearly. "Lena," he said, "this situation, it changed many things for me." Lena looked up. Alexander continued slowly. "I've watched you," he said. "Not in a wrong way. In a respectful way. I watched your character." Lena's heart started beating fast again. "I've seen your patience," he said. "Your honesty. Your strength. The way you bring peace even when things are breaking." He took a slow breath, like he was about to say something he had held inside for too long. Then he reached into his jacket pocket. Lena's eyes widened. Alexander pulled out a small box. Her breath caught. He opened it. Inside was a simple, beautiful ring, elegant, not loud, but perfect. Lena's hands flew to her mouth. Alexander's voice shook slightly, just once. "I never planned to fall for someone at work," he said. "But you didn't just help this company, you helped me become a better man." Tears filled Lena's eyes. Alexander lowered himself down on one knee. Right there, outside the building, under the streetlight. Like the world was quiet just to hear his next words. "Lena Harper," he said, looking up at her. "Will you marry me?" Lena's whole body shook. She laughed and cried at the same time. "Yes, yes," she whispered. Alexander stood up quickly, smiling, real and free. He slid the ring onto her finger gently. And Lena felt something she never expected from a wrong message sent months ago. A safe love. A strong love. A love built through storms. Months later, they married. Not in a flashy way. In a beautiful way. The church was full of warm people, staff, friends, and a few family members. Maya cried the loudest. When Lena walked down the aisle, people smiled with tears in their eyes, because they remembered how quiet she used to be, and how much she had grown. Alexander stood at the altar waiting, eyes shining. When Lena reached him, he held her hands and whispered, "I'm proud of you." Lena whispered back, "And I'm grateful you protected me." They exchanged vows that were simple, honest, and full of meaning. And when the pastor said, "You may kiss the bride," the whole room erupted in joy. Later at the reception, Lena and Alexander danced slowly. Not like two perfect people, but like two people who had faced darkness and still chose light. And as Lena rested her head on Alexander's chest, she thought of the truth. Sometimes, the biggest blessing of your life begins with your biggest mistake. Because the wrong message did not destroy her. It revealed the truth. It exposed the enemy. It built her courage. And it led her to the love she never expected. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you find this story worth watching. If you do, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more beautiful stories. Like, comment, and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Your support and engagement encourage me to post more videos. Thanks for watching.